You have the right to remain silent,
But we'd prefer if you didn't.
Spinning the law, spinning the law.
This is Malzberg's
Spinning the law,
Spinning the Law
spinning the law, spinning the law.
with attorney Kendall Coffey.
Oh, yes. Love that theme. And joining us now is the aforementioned Kendall Coffey. Hello, sir.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, you
Great
gotta
to be
admit
back
that-
on. Great to hear the music again.
I was going to say, it psychs you up. It sends you into the end of the week and weekend with like on a natural high, right?
Yes, the safe kind.
All right, let's get right to it. We have some very interesting stories here. And one is very disturbing, particularly to me. A member of the U.S. Army band said that he was forced out of the U.S. Army for having anti-Obama bumper stickers on his personal car, serving Chick-fil-A sandwiches at a party, and reading books read by conservative authors like radio and TV. Can they force him out if they wanted to for his political beliefs and having a bumper sticker against the commander-in-chief on his own personal car?
Well, he certainly doesn't have to agree with the administration, and he's certainly entitled to have, read the books he wants to read. The Code of Military Justice has some prohibitions. It's ironic that the people who do the most to protect our rights have fewer rights than many of us. But if they could demonstrate that it's, for example, conduct prejudicial to good order, whatever that means, maybe they'd have something to talk about. But if the reaction seems extreme, he may have a very good case here. If he does something, and this is kind of the way it's expressed, contemptuous toward the president, contemptuous toward the Congress, then he might be subject to discipline. But simply supporting a different administration, having views, reading books by authors that may not agree with the president, none of that seems to get anywhere close to being grounds to throw a decorated veteran out of the service.
Yeah, you would think so, especially since we still have Sergeant Bergdahl serving in uniform. I know they're finally getting down supposedly to talking to him, but we'll see how that pans out, and we'll follow this case as well. All right, Virginia officials going to be submitting a petition to the Supreme Court tomorrow rather, on the Fourth Circuit, I should say. Let's see, filing the U.S. Court of Appeals, Fourth Circuit. It's the same-sex marriage again, and let me ask you this: what is this case all about? I mean, we had the two decisions on gay marriage. What's left for the Supreme Court to decide?
Well, the ultimate question is: do the states have the right to define marriage as existing only between a man and a woman? And the states attempt to limit it in that way. Is that a violation of the 14th Amendment? The Supreme Court sort of talked around the issue a year ago in the Windsor decision, suggesting to many lower courts that it was ready to find that a ban on same-sex marriage was unconstitutional. Hasn't gotten that result yet. But, Steve, the way the lower courts are breaking, they all seem to be consistently saying that it is unconstitutional. You've got to think that the Supreme Court is going to end up in the same direction. And recently, I think we talked about it last week, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said she thinks the court's going to take the question. She doesn't think they're going to dodge it. She thinks they're going to accept this question and decide it, once and for all.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you have indicated in previous interviews that you think this issue and on other issues too, that the court kind of reacts to the mood of the country and the way things are falling and going. And as you indicated on this issue, it seems like every single decision, whether it's rendered by a single judge or a panel, it's going in a pro-gay marriage way.
Yeah, and I'm one of those who say I don't think judges, even federal judges and justices, ignore what they perceive to be the overwhelming weight of public opinion or the winds of history. So, of course, judges will say, no, I don't pay any attention to any of that. I don't read newspapers. But, my sense is the court would have great difficulty ignoring the fact that all the other lower courts are all reaching basically the same conclusion about same-sex marriage.
And by the way, I was talking about Virginia, which tomorrow will give a petition of their own to the U.S. Supreme Court, but it's also the state of Utah began their filing to get their case to the U.S. Supreme Court 6 weeks ahead of schedule. So that's a kind of an early. Of course, the court's out of session, so none of these will be taken up until at least at the very earliest next
fall. We'll be hearing some things.
I'm sure we will. All right, let me bring up the name, dare I, Jodi Arias. Now, you know, we all saw some bizarre behavior and testimony and antics in the courtroom when she had her trial. She was found guilty. Now we're finally getting to, I guess, a revamped penalty phase, and she's going to supposedly represent herself in the penalty phase of her trial. Can any defendant opt to represent themselves?
You know, there's a constitutional right to represent yourself. Judges don't like it. It's not a good thing for the system. But unless you can demonstrate that the defendant who wants to be their own lawyer is in some fashion mentally incompetent, I don't mean legally incompetent. A lot of people, maybe even some lawyers, are legally incompetent. But unless the defendant is mentally incompetent, there's a constitutional right. Now, the judge was reluctant to do it, is insisting that her previous lawyers stand by. You get something called standby counsel when they have to stay in the courtroom and be available to advise her. But what an outrage it's going to be to have somebody who's guilty of just an appalling crime trying to play lawyer and deal with these gut-wrenching and horrifying issues. And, you know, so there's been some different discussion on whether it's going to help her chances or not to avoid the death penalty. I don't think it's going to help her one bit. I think it was remarkable that last time the jury did not reach a unanimous conclusion on the death penalty. I think this time we can expect that she will lose her one and only case where she's trying to represent and in effect be a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, I don't know, but you could tell me, all the evidence from the trial, I don't know if that's entered in, or the court records, if that's entered into this phase, because she was found to be, putting it mildly, very inconsistent in her statements, and you know, not only to investigators, but even in instances to the court. She didn't endear herself to the jury. You could tell that by her attitude and her actions and her antics. So, like you said, a travesty. I mean, I can only imagine what she'll be like when she's in, you know, quote unquote, control of the proceedings.
The theory some have posited is because she's in front of the jury the whole time, in effect talking to them, that maybe, just maybe, they'll kind of get to know her, and there'll be one person on that jury, which is all it takes to save her from the death penalty, one person on that jury that feels sorry for her or sees something in her that's humanity that should be saved. But I wouldn't count on it. I think that the prosecution can and will use selectively, not all of it, but will use the most compelling evidence from the last trial, and they've got a lot to work with.
Yeah. All right, finally, in your neck of the woods, this brings you and I together in a bizarre way. I'm living in New Jersey, you're down in Florida, and a woman who is now living in Florida was arrested yesterday and charged with murdering her young son in New Jersey more than 20 years ago.
It's as we all know, there's no statute of limitations on murder. It's not an easy case for prosecutors because it goes back so long. They need to have some theory of motive. Why would a mother kill her own child? You really want to be able to address that. But could she be convicted? Absolutely. Just a few weeks ago, a man was convicted for killing his wife in a crime that occurred more than 20 years ago. So it's definitely something where it's difficult for the jury to piece it together, but if they've got the evidence and there's no other explanation for how this child was killed other than his mother, a mother who, by the way, gave ridiculously different lies and versions to the police of what had happened to her son. So she may actually convict herself based on the lies she gave all those years ago.
Yeah, the carnival. He disappeared at the carnival, but nobody ever saw him at the carnival, the whole thing. All right, Kendall, great to talk to you as always, sir. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Hey, you too. Thanks for the music.
And you're welcome. Anytime. Kendall Coffey, ladies and gentlemen, famed attorney. And by the way, his book is out there somewhere, Spinning the Law. What a great book. And this man has been involved in such high-profile cases affecting the history of the United States as well. All right, folks. You want to weigh in? Do you think the President of the United States should be impeached? Or do you think he should not be impeached? We want to hear from you. We're conducting a poll, and you can go to newsmax.com/Obama poll. That's newsmax.com/Obama poll, and vote. Do it now. Coming up next on the Big Steve Malzberg Show, it's a little segment we call Gimme 5. You're not going to want to miss it, so please stay tuned for it. And in the meantime, here's how you can reach us on social media.